Please stand if you're able. Join us in Walk Down This Road.
Way
and we'll get there with it. Come on and walk down this road with me. Come on and walk down this road with me. Come on and walk down this road with me, and we'll get there with it. Come on and walk down this road with me, and we'll get there with it.
Good morning. Yeah, it's kind of fun, at least for me, to look at the lyrics like on that song. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Come on and walk down this road with me. I thought, isn't that true? Because right now, take a look around. Just turn your head around, look, see everybody who's here. Just take a look. I have a surprise for you. You are walking down the road with each other. And we're glad that you're here. Today we're going to talk about this act of forgiveness. How do we ask ourselves for forgiveness? How do we ask God for forgiveness? Before we do that, I'd like to remind you that we have the prayer box here. So I'll invite you to put any prayer requests in there that you might want to. You can put in a prayer request for yourself, for somebody else, for a situation in the world. All of those things would be great. And just outside the two doors there, as you leave, there's two more prayer boxes. So we'd love it if you use those. So would you join me in an opening prayer? So let's take a moment and let's just be here. Let's just be here right now. And Spirit of God, we understand how lucky we are. We understand how blessed we are. Because in spite of all the things that go on in our lives, and because of all those things that go on in our lives, we get to walk down the road with the Spirit of God. That's our closest companion. And we understand how loved we are, how lucky we are, how blessed we are. And because of that, we say thank you, God. And so it is. So it is. Amen.
Okay, please stand if you're able. Join us in Love is Drawn to Love. 2, 3, 4. Make me some room close by your side. Oh, love is drawn to love. Here in this place, hearts open wide. Oh, love is drawn to love. We'll find a song singing together. Love is drawn to
Hi, I'm Tammy Savage, and I'm the celebration assistant today. And I'm sure all of you know her, but we have this really, really wonderful secretary, Geraldine, at our church. And she is so good that even when Dennis forgets to invite her up to light the candle, she sneaks in and does it anyway.
And as I was standing up and thinking, I'm forgetting something.
Welcome to Unity Center of Spiritual Growth, where all people who wish to worship here are welcome. We strive to live love and uplift lives. We are inclusive and an affirming church. We bless people of all races, sexual orientations, colors, political beliefs, or anything else they or you may have been judged on in the past. We simply welcome everyone who wants to pursue their spiritual path. Let me introduce our wonderful musicians today. We got a full crowd of them. They sound great. On vocals, piano and keyboard, she does everything. Gwen Gathercole. Vocals and guitar, Paul Gathercole. Guitar and harp, Ken Curtis. Drums, Dagan Williamson. Vocals, Patty Ashley and Cheryl Kirby. On sound, we have Jim Sullenberger, the one and only. We have on PowerPort, we have Brian Wright. And on video streaming, I'm so glad he's back there so I can be up here, Joe Ornelas.
Hey.
Thank you. And thanks to everybody who makes the Sunday service happen. We appreciate you all because it takes a lot of volunteers for a Sunday service. Thanks. If we have anybody here for the first time, we want to thank you for being here. We are glad to have you join us, and we hope you have a great time. We have a welcome packet for you. If you would raise your hand, one of our greeters will bring it by for you. Also, welcome to you folks who are listening to us online. They have, if you would like to let us know that you're here, there's a Connect with Us tab on the website. If you press that, you'll be given a lot of stuff. So be sure and connect with us. Hopefully all of you saw the announcements that were streaming while we were all talking to each other and not paying attention. If not, they're listed in your program and they are for sure on the website. Please join us and get involved. It's a great way to know wonderful people. Let me draw your attention to just a few, however. Reverend Dennis Ashley is holding a pet blessing on Saturday, August 6th from 10 to 11 a.m. If you plan to attend, he has sign-up sheets that he's going to pass around. And I asked him if he could do a pet curse for my cat so she would stop killing things. And he's going to give it, he's going to wing it. He said he'd give it a go. We are still recruiting volunteers to adopt a parking lot median. What a great thing. You could brag to all of your friends that you are the proud parent of a parking lot median. Your role would be to maintain your parking lot median in beauty and appeal during the growing season. Look for the number posted in the parking lot median to identify the one that you would like to adopt. Then add your name next to the corresponding line on the sign-up sheet. It would be a great thrill. We are currently recruiting practitioners and vendors to participate in a holistic fair on Saturday, August 27th. If you'd like to be involved, please contact Cheryl. Raise your hand. And her number should be, her number's plastered over everything. She really loves those calls at 1 in the morning too. Or if you maybe know somebody that would like to be involved in the holistic fair, give Cheryl a call. And I'd like to take a moment to honor Trish Dutoit. Trish has been a member of our church community since 2006. In 2021, she agreed to serve as a board member. She is also responsible for the reinvigoration of our community garden, and oh my goodness, that was a lot of work. After 2 years of lying fallow, she single-handedly weeded and tilled the entire growing area to bring it back to its current lovely state. You can also thank Trish for the farm fresh eggs that are available for sale on Sunday. Trish is one of those that really sticks her neck out for this community. Unfortunately, she stuck it out so far, she's now wearing a neck brace. You are valued here, and I just want to say how grateful I am and everyone should be for your generous spirit. Thank you, Trish. And finally, our Heart to Heart InReach Ministry assists community members with rides to the service, emergency food assistance, or temporary help with light household chores. To request assistance, fill out an InReach request form. They should be in your seat pockets, and they look like this. After you fill them out, put them in a black request box in the hallway. For folks online, use the Connect With Us form. I told you it did a lot of stuff. This is another one of the things it does. If you want to learn about serving on the Heart to Heart InReach team, plan to attend a short meeting on Sunday, July 31st, after the service. Okay, and we have a birthday today. Fran, stand up. Happy birthday. Okay, we're going to have a few minutes to meet and greet one another. Go tell her happy birthday. We're going to ring the gong when we're done, and we need you to return you to your seats, and please obey.
Chimes. I think it's chimes.
Say hi to your friends and meet somebody new too. I should have said chimes. I said gong. Okay. Every Sunday, we have someone from the congregation read us a blessing before the meditation. Today we have Val Podesta. Thank you. Good morning. Romans 3:23 tells us that we all fall short of the glory of God. How true. None of us is perfect. I think there was a typo there, sorry. Excuse me, Dennis. None of us is perfect. We are all on the human journey, discovering who and what we are. And we make mistakes. Lots of little ones, and some that are huge. And here's the deal. We make mistakes because we are here to try out this world. This world is a laboratory for each of us. Now, just like any laboratory, some of the things we try work out, and some don't. When we blow it, that's when we ask for forgiveness from the Spirit of God within and from ourselves. Just remember this. Forgiveness is an act of love. And that love allows us to start again with a clean heart and a perfect soul. And so it is. Namaste.
In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace. And I rest and trust.
So let's take a few minutes now in meditation. And if you're new to meditation, it's nothing more than just getting quiet and turning inward. So I invite you to put down anything that you might be holding. Close your eyes if you like. And let's move into meditation for a few minutes. So breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. And there's so many things going on. So many jobs we get involved in, so many tasks. All these voices, all this movement, all this action. But now, for a few minutes, we move into the stillness. Because in the stillness, that's where we find peace. So as we breathe in that universal sense of peace. And we fill the stillness with a sense of peace and a sense of love. And that peace and that love, they pass all understanding. They just are. It doesn't always make sense, but this great sense of peace, this great sense of love, it fills us. And somehow we know peace and love, they are the truth of who and what we are. That's what we're here to remember. Peace and love. That's what we're here to wake up to. And we invite peace and love to be a part of us on our human journey. So let's just know that in the silence. Let's just understand that peace and love, anytime we want, can be our constant companions in the silence. So, Spirit of God, the truth of peace and the truth of love, that's what fills us up. That's what gives us a sense of knowing. And we thank you for helping us to know the very truth of ourselves. And so it is, God. So it is. Namaste.
moment I am peace. I am peace. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment I am peace.
So thank you all. I love that song. There was a Jewish rabbi, and he was driving in downtown Coeur d'Alene, and he got into a car accident, and the other driver hopped out, and he came over to see if the rabbi was okay, and he said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what was happening." And the rabbi looked a little closer, and he could see, oh, it was a Catholic priest. You know, and so the Catholic priest said, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" And the rabbi said, "Well, yeah, I think I'm fine. Doesn't seem to be any problem." And so they began talking as they waited for the police to arrive, and they just hit it off. And finally, the Catholic priest said, "You know what I'm going to do? I don't do this for everybody, but I'll be right back." And so he ran over to his car, and he got out a bottle of whiskey. And he brought it back to the Jewish rabbi, and he said, "Yeah, I just wouldn't do this for everybody, but gosh, big honor, I mean, we have become fast friends." So he said, "Here's what I want you to do. Let's both drink a toast to our newfound friendship." He said, so he gave him the bottle of whiskey, and the rabbi thought, well, this is a little weird. But he said, okay, and he took a drink, and he said, and now take one more drink. And this time, take that drink just so a toast to a friendship found in mended cloth. And so the rabbi took one more drink, and then he handed the bottle to the Catholic priest, and the Catholic priest, "Oh no, I'll wait till the police get here." Apparently, might have needed an act of forgiveness somewhere along the line there, right? I thought I'd take a few minutes today to talk about asking God for forgiveness and asking ourselves for forgiveness, because last week we talked about forgiving others, but that's a pretty big piece of the pie, isn't it? To take a look at forgiving ourselves, and however that comes, whatever form that comes in. I think one of the questions that we might ask ourselves sometimes is asking forgiveness, is that kind of a weak thing to do? Now, I can remember a lot of years ago, back when I was in high school, the summer in between my junior and senior year, I was a pretty good running back in football. And I was kind of thinking, I think I could probably play in college. And I remember in the summer, there was this pickup game of football. And one of the guys on the other team was the starting fullback for the University of Idaho. And I thought, cool. And I can still remember going in to tackle him, and he was lifting his knees up so high, and he knocked me out. I mean, I was unconscious for a couple of minutes. And he came over and he said, I didn't know if I should come over and say I'm sorry, but he goes, I'm kind of sorry. And I'm laying there thinking to myself, I thought I could be a college running back, and he's from the University of Idaho, so he's not even that good. And I thought, that was when I gave up my dreams of becoming a college running back. But I thought it was interesting, though, because that's what he thought. He thought to come over and say he was sorry was a sign of weakness. But to his credit, he did that anyway. I do think that sometimes we have that concern, right? that if we ask for forgiveness from somebody else or from God or for ourselves, is that like a little moment of weakness? And what I would say is absolutely not. I think that's one of the strongest things we do. Because what that can do, when we take a look at our lives, is that just clears away a lot of obstacles. If you're a human being, then you've made a lot of mistakes in this whole life. And if you're past the age of 20, you've made a few serious mistakes in your life. And asking God for forgiveness and asking ourselves forgiveness, it's not that that's a weak thing to do. It's the natural order of things. That's exactly what it is we're supposed to do. It's part of that human journey where we take a look at how our life is going and we say, there's just some things I can't see. And the reality, I think, is that when we haven't dived in to that act of forgiveness, it actually kind of blocks our vision. We can't see how things are supposed to turn out. We can't see what our purpose is because it's so clouded by feelings of guilt. I think one of the questions we ask ourselves when we're trying to decide, do I ask God for forgiveness? Do I ask myself for forgiveness? One of the questions that we're actually kind of wrestling with is, am I going to be a driver on this bus I call my life, or am I going to be a passenger? See, drivers take the wheel, and they're headed a particular direction, and they make a lot of decisions, and drivers just take charge of their life. And passengers for life, you kind of look around and say, gee, I wonder where we're going. Yeah. I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder if this is a good route or a bad route. I think when we are passengers in our life, then I think what happens is we act like a victim and we feel like a victim. And that's not what we're here for. We're here to sort of boldly take care of our lives, to boldly be the drivers within our lives. So I thought we'd spend a few minutes kind of looking at those things, and we can kind of look at this idea of the things that we do and that we don't like, and some of the things that we stop that we don't like, and just doing and stopping and loving. See, here's what I think. I think that if you touch a hot stove, a burner on a hot stove, and your finger gets burned and it really hurts, I would suggest you stop touching it. I think if you do something that brings you shame, and we all have, I would just suggest you stop doing it. If there's some things in your life that you're not proud of, I would suggest you not do those anymore. And if you're not sure, here's the way you tell if you're engaged in something that you're not very proud of. If you can't tell anybody else about it because you think they wouldn't understand, you're doing something you're not very proud of. And so it makes a great deal of sense to stop those things that don't serve us anymore, that don't bring us more health and more gratitude and more joy about simply being who and what we are. And the Spirit of God, a Spirit of God deep within us, always brings us unconditional love. The issue, I think, is when we're filled with unforgiveness, when we haven't asked for forgiveness, it so blocks our vision. It so blocks our feelings that we can't even feel that love, that unconditional love that's always there for us to access anytime we want, but we just forget. We can't see it. We can't figure out how it could possibly be true. I've been intrigued by the James Webb Telescope sites, right? I mean, I think I just saw a lot of head nods, so a lot of people have been watching these photos from outer space. And I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but what they did was the shots from the James Webb Telescope, they photographed those in infrared. That's a spectrum of the range of light that we can't see as human beings. So they photographed it in infrared, and then they run back, and they kind of touched them up a little bit so that we could see them with our range of eyesight. Now, here's what I got intrigued by. I wonder how much of the full spectrum of light we are not able to see. So I thought, do we only see 75% of what's out there? Do we only see 50% of what's out there? Because we can't see a thing unless it's lit by light that we can see, right? So I thought, what could it be? So I did a little investigation. I did a little research. And I don't know if this is going to blow you away, but it blew me away. We only see 0.0003 of what's there. We only see 3/1000ths of 1% of the range of light that's there. You know what that tells me? That tells me all those things that we think couldn't possibly be true, well, we don't know how to look. We don't know how to see it. Think God can love you for anything, no matter what you've done? And you say, well, you don't know what I've done. And what I would say is, God's love is forever. God's love is without conditions. And of course, we can't see that. We can't understand how that could possibly be true because we're only seeing 3/1000ths of what's possible. So there's so much that's there. Here's the deal. God, the whole idea of God forgiving us for the things we've done, it actually doesn't make any sense to God. And here's why. God's already forgiven you because God loves you without conditions. There is nothing that you can do, nothing that can take you beyond the love of God. There's nothing you can do ever that can take you beyond the forgiveness of God. And I say that, and as I say it, I know there's a couple of people here who have spent time in prison. And what I say is it's small potatoes. It's little stuff. I don't care how serious it was. The forgiveness and the love of God never goes away, never changes. It just always is. So what I suggest is maybe it's time for the illusions and the appearances of the ego just to kind of go away for a while. I mean, we've lived our lives that way, right? We've lived our lives with the ego running the show, and most of us have done okay. But the ego is just such a great hypnotist. The ego is like the master of illusions. And you know what? The ego is committed to being the driver in your life, not the passenger. But here's one weird thing about the ego. It's committed to being the driver in your life, but it doesn't even know where to go. I mean, have you ever met somebody like that? You know, they must be in charge of the committee, even though they have no idea what they're doing. I mean, I don't know about you. I've certainly met people like that in my life. I'm thinking, well, what is it you think you do? Where is it you think you'd go? Hey, I've been like that. I can remember years ago I worked for PAML, the medical laboratory. And I got in there and I thought, I'd like to kind of get ahead here. I'd like to do a really good job. And I can still remember talking to Rosalie. And Rosalie was the executive vice president of PAML. And she said, well, what job is it you'd like? And I said, well, I don't know. I just want to go up. When she asked me, where do you want to go, I just felt so stupid. And it's sort of the same thing with our egos, right? Because I was running purely on ego, right? And she was saying, you can have anything you want. What is it you want? And the ego can never really respond to that. And I think that's what gets us involved in things that we need forgiveness for. We make mistakes because we don't know where we're headed. We don't know what it is we want. We just want to go, especially when we're driven by the ego. So it's time, I think, for us to put the ego aside for a little while. Let it take a step back. This master of illusions, this master of hypnosis. And instead say, if I could ask for forgiveness from God, and if I could ask for forgiveness from myself, then what I could do is maybe I could see where I'm headed much more clearly. Maybe I could really understand things a lot better. And here's the thing about asking for forgiveness. We cannot escape from who and what we are. Can't be done. And what we are is the child of God. What we are is an expression of the universe. What we are a demonstration of God's love in practice. And it makes sense to get rid of all the BS and get rid of all the games and all the stupid stuff that we do, and instead just say, here I am. Because we come to God exactly as we are. We come to God warts and all, exactly as we are. And since we're talking about God, I mean, how else could we come? I mean, how else could we present ourselves? Because the Spirit of God deep within us knows exactly who and what we are, knows exactly what mistakes we've made. And so we can start off by asking for forgiveness from God. In a sense, we don't really need to because God's already forgiven us, but that's okay. It's nice to ask. It's nice to start there. But then what we really want to do is ask for forgiveness from ourselves. Because every mistake we've ever made, whether it was on purpose or whether it was on accident, can serve to teach us. Every act that we've ever done that we think we need forgiveness for, if we just do that little mental shift, we say, here's what I can learn from that. So let me suggest 5 things that we can do on forgiving ourselves. And so here's the first one. I think the first one is we want to examine the troubling situation we find ourselves in. We want to just analyze it. And I'd really encourage you to write it down on a piece of paper. I mean, look for what it is that we've done. What were we trying to accomplish? What did we think we could get away with? I mean, that's where we begin, is just write it down on a piece of paper. And the reason I encourage you to write it down is it makes us more thorough. It makes us more analytical. It takes us away from judgment of ourselves. So that's the first one. Second thing I'd say is we're spiritual beings on a human journey, but we are on the human journey. So if there's some things that we think we need to ask ourselves for forgiveness for, then the second thing I'd say is fix what you can at the human level. Pay what you owe. Apologize to the person that you hurt. Do what you need to do. Act differently. But fix what you can at the human level. And not everything can be fixed. There's some things that are beyond fixing. I mean, maybe the person has passed away. Maybe the situation is just not fixable. But what you can fix at the human level. Because when we get around to asking God for forgiveness, we're not going to be able to do that very well until we've fixed what we can at the human level. And the third thing I would say is then let's start learning our lessons at the spiritual level. We fixed what we could at the human level. Now we have to say, now spiritually, I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn from my mistakes and my successes too, but right now I'm dealing with a mistake, so what can I learn from this particular lesson? And just as I said last week, if you run into this lesson again and again, pay special attention. Because that says you're going to keep raising this one up again and again until you deal with it. Until you understand what the lesson is. Been married and divorced? That happens. Been married and divorced 5 or 6 times? Yeah. Time to learn something from it. Or, in the case of my dad, been married and divorced 8 times? Yeah. I can remember asking my dad, think there might be anything you contributed to this? He goes, nope. Then number 4. Number 4, then it's time to turn within and ask for forgiveness from God and from yourself. And there's no magic words to say. I like to make sure I'm doing things before I talk about them on a Sunday. I can remember laying in bed last night and thinking about some things that I had not done well, some mistakes I'd made. And I remember asking God for forgiveness last night and asking myself for forgiveness. You know what? It takes a while. And the second thing is, it's kind of like, doesn't feel very comfortable. But you keep going ahead and doing it anyway. Because that's the route. That's the pathway to seeing who and what you are. And then the fifth step that I'd suggest is then choose peace. Choose peace for yourself. You've done what you could. You fixed what you could at the human level. You paid what you owed. You fixed what you broke. You paid the time if you needed to pay the time. You've done everything you could, and you've asked God for forgiveness. Now it's time to choose peace. And let me invite you all to close your eyes right now, just for a moment, 10 seconds. And here's what I'd like to ask you to do. In your life, choose peace. In your life, choose peace. And so it is. Thank you.
It's by the grace to all, peace to all, life to all, love to all, peace to all, life to all, love to all.
It's here somewhere. I know we've come to the time of the service where we ask you to share your blessings. I'm a pro giver, which means if you see somebody put in this little coin into the offering, it means they give even when they're not here. It's an automated giving process, and if you want to learn more about it, there's some brochures in the back. But we have asked Donna Smith to come share our offering blessing with us.
Before I do what I came up here to do, let's give Dennis another round of applause for that beautiful sermon. Thank you. We've come to the time of the service when we ask you to give of your financial blessings. It may not always seem like it, but forgiveness and prosperity are very closely related. When we think we are beyond the grace of being forgiven, that feeling of not being forgiven blocks our vision. It blocks our ability to see the world of abundance that is available to us in every moment. When we think we cannot be forgiven, it blocks the flow of prosperity in our lives. But do the forgiveness work, and everything comes into focus. Forgiveness helps us see how deeply we are loved, how clear our path forward is, and the abundance that is always there in our lives. And so it is. Namaste.
I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. Let my Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. One more time. I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God.
So, would you join me in saying thanks for these love offerings? The Spirit of God, we say thank you. We understand that the financial gifts are important to running the church, but always what's far more important is that we understand this role asking God for forgiveness and asking ourselves for forgiveness. That's the deep work. And we think that we're ready to do that. And so it is, God. So it is. Amen. Well, now, in theory, let's invite the kids in. So, Amber, what did the kids learn about today?
So today we talked about the virtue of patience, and we played a patience game involving a timer and having to sit and wait patiently. And the kids found it really boring, which was actually perfect because it was able to allow us to talk about. That's what being patient is sometimes, is we are bored and still being able to sit and wait patiently. And then we also did some origami, which requires a lot of patience and focus. And yes, he made a cup that is actually functional, and we also made boats that we tried out, and most of them floated. So.
Now, if the kids would like to go back to their parents or guardians. Oh, yeah. Okay, thanks. And parents or guardians, don't forget, even though the kids are coming back now, we'd still like it if you signed out, please. And now, let me invite you to stand and let's close with our peace song. Join me in saying the prayer for protection. Together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is.
And all is well.
Thank you for being here today.